Welcome to Terri's Kitchen, where we talk food, faith, and family. Today we are going to make what I call a cinnamon tart. It is using the leftover dough from, been making pie crust, so I cut off extra dough. So we're going to make a cinnamon tart, and it has butter, sugar, cinnamon, and a little nutmeg. But first, I've asked Ron if he would read today's devotion.
Okay, this is out of Romans 8, and it's verses 15 through 17. This resurrection life you receive from God is not a timid, grave-tending life. It is adventurously expectant, greeting God with a childlike, "What's next, Papa?" God's Spirit touches our spirits and confirms who we really are. We know who He is, and we know who we are, Father and children. And we know we are going to get what's coming to us, an unbelievable inheritance. We go through exactly what Christ goes through. If we go through the hard times with Him, then we're certainly going to go through the good times with Him.
Thank you, Ron, and that is so true. He's here with us all the time. So I have a little bit, and you see I got my pie crust apron on that I can have lots of flour. I've got our oven preheated at 350 degrees. I do have my conventional bake on, and the reason I do that is it seems like it browns the tart a lot better. But if you do not have a conventional bake on your oven, that's okay. Just do it at 350, and you're really going to have to watch it. It's probably going to have to definitely bake at least 20 minutes. I've never really timed it because I'm always in the kitchen when I have something baking and I keep checking it, but you want it a nice brown. So this is my leftover dough, and still have flour on my surface from my pie crust earlier. And I'm going to put the flour on the rolling pin, and I'm just going to roll that out. And you want it as thin as possible, but still where you're able to work. Ron loves this cinnamon tart, so even if I have one little scrap of dough, he'll say, make that tart, because that is truly, I think, his favorite part of pies.
It is.
So this one is going to be a small one, and it's very oddly shaped, but I have some melted butter that I'm going to brush that on. You know how I like my butter. Brush that on, and we did this growing up. I don't know what Grandma and Titi actually called it. I've always called it a cinnamon tart. You know, extra crust with a little cinnamon sugar. Some have called them pinwheels. I've heard it through the years various ways, but ours was always cinnamon tart in my mind. Okay, so I just had some butter that I had little chunks. So just melt some butter according to how big your dough is going to be. This is a little less than a half a cup of sugar, and I'm just going to use my hands, which is one of my best kitchen utensils. And you're just going to sprinkle that down. Again, you don't have to have a lot of sugar. You can have lots of sugar, but you don't have to have a lot, so just sprinkle some of that on. I didn't measure out my cinnamon because I'm bad with cinnamon and nutmeg when I'm doing my tart. I just reach in and just sprinkle. And my fingers do a wonderful job of sprinkling that around. So a little more cinnamon. I love cinnamon. And for a little change, I add a little bit of nutmeg. Nutmeg is a strong spice. Usually a lot of people use it for their apple pies. But on this, I love it on this. So what you do now, you just take those edges and bring them in. If you can get into a baby's old-fashioned cloth diaper, you can. But if not, that's okay. All right. And I have here just a baking sheet, And I do have parchment paper. That'll help because the butter will kind of melt and ooze out of there. So this, but it also helps to brown, have a beautiful brown crust to it. And so this is not very big. I have made these cinnamon tarts where I've almost taken a whole recipe, and this whole tray would have been filled. So, but you don't need that. Whatever dough you have left over, it'll just be a nice little snack, and Ron will probably eat that in one setting. So after you have it over from the counter over into your baking sheet, we're going to add a little more butter on top. Now, something that I have done, I have placed this, if I'm making, if my other pies are ready, or if I'm making fancy pies or a fruit pie, I'll bake the fruit pies first, or the fancy pies, and I'll just, because I want to clean up my counter, I'll go ahead and put that in the refrigerator and let that get nice and cold. And then when the other pies are out, I'll pop that in the oven, and it's just a nice golden brown crust. So we put our butter, we're going to layer with just a little bit more sugar. And again, that's completely to your taste and your liking. And a little bit of nutmeg. So that's what we call our cinnamon tart. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come over and put this in the oven. And again, I'll watch that and bake that probably, I'm going to at least say 15-20 minutes. But then I'll show you when it comes out and what it looks like. And hopefully you would think about making that with your extra pie dough. So. Okay, our cinnamon tart is ready to come out of the oven. So let me pull that out. Ron is definitely close by because he knows that he's coming after the cinnamon tart when it comes out. So you can see that it's nicely brown. The cinnamon, and I didn't have as much butter as I've had before, but you know, having that parchment paper on there really kept from, you know, spilling all over your cookie sheet. So just going to put it there, and then we'll be able to cut into it very shortly. And I'm so thankful that you are watching our videos. If you like what you're seeing and the cooking, please subscribe, hit the like button, share. We love cooking. I love cooking, and I love having you come into our kitchen as we're cooking. And so please consider, you know, taking a look and sharing with others. Bless.
Okay, folks, the proof is in the pudding, and here it is. This is one, well, if it was a meatball, it'd be a spicy meatball.